Welcome to Get Into It with Tami Roman. What's good, soulmates? How y'all been doing? Haven't seen y'all since last week. But thanks for joining me tonight. I have another great show lined up for you with my special guest, Jemele Hill, the co-host of Carrie and Jemele Won't Stick to Sports on Vice. And coming up a little later, I'm going to help you guys out by answering your questions in my Ask Tami segment. We all love that one. That's where, you give me your questions about your relationship drama, work drama, or the day-to-day family drama, and I'll do my best to give you the advice that you need, okay? And we also have the Power Minute that comes up later on in the show, but right now, child, let's get right on into my unpopular opinion. We don't discuss sports a lot on this show, but there's an issue that has come up that needs some attention. And when it needs attention, that's when we talk about it. Now, former NFL running back Eric Dickerson is angry that former player Tim Tebow, who is white, I just have to tell you that for the purpose of this story so you can understand what's going on, is getting a second chance to play with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And former quarterback Colin Kaepernick, who is black, another point that I got to give you for the purpose of this story, has not received an offer to come back and play pro ball. Now, we all know in 2016, Colin protested police brutality by taking a knee during the national anthem. Eric Dickerson says that's how the NFL is. It's different for us. I'll say that. Tim Tebow might be a good player and a great guy, but everything about this seems unfair. As my grandma would say, something in the milk ain't clean. Something in the milk ain't clean. So my unpopular opinion is this, that I'm only going to give you guys a little snippet of my unpopular opinion because we got Jemele Hill in the building today, and she going to tell it to us how it need to be told. She going to give what need to be gave, so I'm going to keep mine short. Colin took a knee, and everybody thought he was crazy. Few years after that, we saw a man take a knee on another human being, which sparked the Black Lives Matter movement and pole vaulted it to the forefront of everybody's frontal lobe, their minds, and encouraged many, many people to use their voices out of respect for Black lives. So Colin wasn't crazy, okay? The injustice needed to be addressed, and that was the truth. So should this man still be penalized for something that we have since come to know was the absolute truth and should have been protested while someone else gets the opportunity? He's a good player. Tebow, remember he did all that and he all that stuff. We get it, but I still think if Colin wants to play professional football, he should be afforded the opportunity, because what he was fighting for needed to have been fought for. Okay, so the NFL needs to give him a chance if that's what he wants to do. And if they support him, his fans might support the league. It's a win-win for everybody, right? Let's bring Colin back to the NFL if that's what he wants to do. I have a strange feeling that he's moved on. I know little sideline tea that he's got a new show coming out based on his life of when he was growing up. So he might have moved on into the executive producing side of things and isn't even thinking about the NFL anymore. But if he were to be thinking about playing in the NFL, I think he should be given the opportunity. Okay, next topic. Instagram model Sydney Chase has enlisted high-powered attorney Gloria Allred to represent her against basketball player Tristan Thompson. Y'all know that's Chloe baby daddy. Because he called her a liar because she claims to have had an affair with him. Now, Tristan, like I said, is Chloe's baby daddy. He issued a cease and desist order last week against Sydney. Attorney Allred says our client Sydney Chase is outraged at what she regards as false statements that have been made about her in the media by Tristan Thompson's representatives. The whole thing is dragging out way too long, if you ask me. Sydney, here's the thing. You speaking your truth about Tristan, that's okay for you to do. I think that you should not be stifled if it's the truth. He didn't have you sign an NDA when he came over there and hit that cat. So you have a right to talk about it. Now he can't shut you up because you're being vocal about it and Chloe done found out. Now, Tristan, for you, Tristan, you know, I called you third trimester Thompson. Okay, because when somebody getting that third trimester, you goes on and find you some other cat, like you did Chloe when she was in her third trimester. Now you, the baby about to be 3 years. It's about threes in you, huh? That you don't like. But Chloe need to get on down the highway from you, because if this is the truth, it seems like you have not learned how to control that thing down there, and you always putting it somewhere else. And I don't understand why, because it seems like you have a beautiful daughter. Chloe keep putting up with you, so clearly she love you. Why you just can't do right? Why you can't do right, Tristan? You know? Now, if you call this woman a liar, you need to make sure that you can back it up, because, you know, she a part of that crew with Selena Powell and them, and they be keeping all their little receipts. Now, I would hate for you to call her a liar, and then she come with the text threads, she come with the DMs, she come with receipts where you done gave her a little coin. You know, I don't want her to just blow your whole spot up like that. So don't be fighting a losing battle. Sit Chloe down and say, you know what? I was with her. Just gonna tell the truth and shame the devil. Chloe, keep taking you back, so it ain't like this time will be any different. Just tell the woman the truth, and let Sydney get on down the highway and tell her story. And I'll tell you quite honestly, if you hadn't called her liar, and if you hadn't made a production out of it, and Chloe tried to DM her and all this stuff, we didn't care. I'm gonna just tell you that. We didn't care one damn bit about what that lady was saying. You gave it the attention, and now we interested. So I'm just saying, don't let her put you in a trick bag and catch you out there as a liar. Moving on to our next topic. It's been a long 15 months, y'all, since COVID changed our everyday lives. And while families and married couples quarantined together, single people have spent a great deal of time alone. And some of them may have FODA. You want to know what that is? That's fear of dating again, okay? Some studies and articles note that the pandemic may have worsened the anxiety associated with dating and meeting someone new. I'm married, so that ain't my issue, okay? But for my single brothers and sisters, this, you know, how you need to approach this situation is meet people slowly as you inject yourself back into your everyday routine. We're now starting to get back into the offices. Restaurants and bars are starting to open back up slowly but surely. Gyms are starting to open up. I think that you will be able to at least have social engagement and activity when things are open, but you need to insert yourself back into them things slowly, into those environments slowly. Because I tell you, I went to the grocery store, and there was so many people on one aisle. I had to run. I ran out the store. I had my mask on and everything, because I was like, it's too many people. Somebody might get the coughing. I don't know. I got to try to walk past people. And I know a lot of y'all is vaccinated and all of that, but it's anxiety for me. So I had to come on out the store and send Reggie back in to get the stuff that we need. So do it slowly at your own comfort level. Start interacting with people again. And as you open up your social locations, you're going to start meeting people again, and it's not going to be that hard to interact and make new friends. I really believe that. We can get back to normal. You just got to do it at your own pace. Moving on to the next subject, I have a question for all of you soulmates. How much time do you spend on your phone and on social media? Studies say the average is over 2 hours a day. And while that might be good for flexing on the gram, too much time online may lead to depression. So I want to say this before I get off into the show. Set boundaries for yourself. You do not need to spend that much time online. Let me tell you what online do. You following somebody that's faking and they putting up a bunch of stuff that you then sit back and start comparing your own personal life to this fake life that they're presenting. You're comparing your body to $10,000 worth of surgery, and it can lead to depression. So limit the time that you spend looking at all of this stuff that people are putting out here for you to consume. You have the right to 30 minutes, if that. Put your post up, check on the friends that might have posted something, and then get off. Get into reading books again. Get into having conversations with your friends and family and people that you love again. I mean, even if you got to jump on the Zoom, spend time that way with the real in real life. Okay? Not what these people's putting up on social media. Just remember that behind every post on social media, there is a real person, and that's who you should be enjoying and spending time with. And that's just my unpopular opinion. Now I am ready to get into today's topic, child. Standing up and speaking out against racism and injustice in sports and entertainment. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with Jemele Hill. Yes, the perfect person for this conversation when we return. So stick around because we're coming back. Let's get into it with Tami Roman on FOXSOUL. Back to get into it with Tami Roman. My next guest is an outspoken sports journalist, TV host, and successful podcaster. She basically does it all. Okay, can you guys please welcome Jemele Hill? Hey, beautiful.
Hey, what's going on? How are you?
I am so happy to see you got on a hoodie, a woman after my own heart.
Right. I think dressing down, basically the pandemic taught us all that we were probably taking ourselves a little bit too seriously when it came to our clothes. So,
and I was always in sweatpants and a hoodie, so I never took myself seriously.
Oh,
behind you, what's that back there on them shelves?
So, one thing is probably people notice the gold statue, which is my one and only Emmy. Yeah, got a little Emmy. I have some other awards there too, but that one, of course, a picture of me and my husband is up top. Got some fine reading there. My 49ers helmet, which is very near and dear to me since I'm a big 49ers fan. So, and also Sparty because I went to Michigan State.
Oh, I love it. Two things I want to touch on. I love how you got the images over in the corner. Like it almost don't matter. Mine would have been front and center. Like, y'all see this Emmy behind me? You ain't got to try to figure out what that ain't no Soul Train award, okay? That is a Emmy, all right? And then the 49ers po thing. Yes. Oh, bless your heart.
That's not too bad because, I mean, we were just in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. And really the person you should feel sorry for is my husband because that smaller helmet is a Detroit Lions helmet. Like we're both.
He can't stand a chance. Now, see me, I am the Chiefs and the Saints are my backup.
Okay. See, you said the Chiefs and that immediately put an arrow through my heart because we obviously lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So
most people do though. That's just, it's just how it is. But I still love you.
Awesome. I understand it. And congratulations again on a fine Super Bowl.
Thank you so much. Now, since you cover sports, I wanted to get into this conversation with you about what it feels like to finally see the fans and the players returning to the games as the pandemic is kind of not, we're finally starting to feel comfortable. I won't say it's winding down, but we're trying to return as best we can back to some normalcy.
Well, Tami, I think one thing that was kind of evident during the pandemic, and I think you saw this in the ratings. I mean, ratings across the board in a lot of the major professional sports were down, and not just by a little, but significantly. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that sports were being played at a time of year where we weren't used to seeing them. For example, the NBA finals being in October, that's not how that usually happens. So the sports schedule was just thrown off. But I think what we underestimated is part of the reason we like to watch sports is that it's a community experience. Yes. And so for me as a sports fan, there was something missing when you don't see fans in the stands or when you don't see shots of people tailgating before football games. just that general just atmosphere that sports is able to create. And now that that's coming back a little bit, I think you're starting to see people become more enthused and feeling some sense of normalcy when it comes to sports. And already, this year you've seen an uptick in viewership. So I'd be really curious to see what happens in the NBA Finals, especially now that it's being played when it's supposed to be played. I think you'll see a jump in viewership again there.
I'm excited about it. I thought they had some great sound effects because there was some times where I was like, wait, people's all up in the stands, child. And then I was looking at be little cardboard people. So they did a good job with that. But do you think we're returning too soon? Because now I look out and I see stands full. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, child, it's still a pandemic.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think another big test is going to be the Olympics, which will be held in Japan this summer. And already there's been a lot of conversations, reluctance about whether or not these Olympic Games should be held. Look, as a country, I think we proved to be fairly incompetent during most of this pandemic. And so I think the horse has already left the barn about things being too soon. We see that some states are on different pages than other states. It doesn't feel as if that we really still have a sense of togetherness on this issue. It will be interesting to see how the vaccinations change how we feel about public gatherings, just from the simple fact that you already have some sporting venues that are offering vaccinated only sections, right? And I think vaccinations are basically going to change the way we socialize. I mean, me and my husband were talking about this. We moved into a new house during the pandemic. We weren't able to obviously hold a housewarming, but we were thinking about if we do hold one, are we going to actually invite unvaccinated people? We've been vaccinated. Most of our friends have, but we also don't want to be with the worry of being in the company of people who haven't been vaccinated. And I'm not being mean about it, but that's just part of the process as a society I think we'll have to go through and think about, and sports is no exception.
Well, is there some truth to the thought process of herd immunity? I mean, like, you're vaccinated, all your people that's going to come to the gathering isn't vaccinated. And then if I was to get an invite, I'm the unvaccinated person. So, so from that standpoint, y'all good. And I've been tested, so I'm negative. I can't come to the thing.
Well, I think as we learn more, because, that is what we hope to reach. And I recently did a entire podcast about the vaccination, the hesitancy, the reluctancy, because I think a lot of times, especially in the Black community, people act as if the fears that Black people have about the vaccine, one, are unique, and two, are based on a point of ignorance. They're not. They're based off history. They're based off present day medical healthcare inequities. They're based off distrust. And it's a distrust that was definitely earned. But one thing that a Black virologist that I spoke with, Dr. Ovita Fuller, that she said that really stayed with me. She said, we're going to reach herd immunity one way or the other. We determine how we reach it. One way we could reach it is, frankly, by the level of infection continuing to be on pace with some of the worst levels that we saw in the last year. Another way is through vaccination. So I think it just kind of depends on how you feel about it. But I certainly don't have any animosity or anything toward people who aren't vaccinated. But I also know, as somebody who, like a lot of people, had to live within this for a year, I would like to be able to have, gatherings or go places and not have that be a constant level of anxiety. Luckily, a lot of my friends are in media, much like you're in media. And so many of them are tested very frequently.
3-4 times a week.
So that's a little bit different. That's in a different category. But it's just, unfortunately, it's something that all of us are probably going to have to think about as we think about how we're going to socialize as we come out of this.
Right. I agree. I want to get into tonight's topic, and I couldn't think of a better person to have this conversation with. It's standing up and speaking out against racism and injustice in sports and entertainment. Now, fans know you as a sports journalist who is very outspoken, doesn't sugarcoat, just shoot straight from the hip. But you have used your platform to inform and educate people about important social issues, which I commend and celebrate. What motivates you to speak out about race?
Well, I think you know a little bit of something about being outspoken as well. So I feel like I'm in perfect company here. Honestly, I think I got to a point in my career as a journalist where I felt like in order for me to feel good about this profession that I committed to for over 20 years now, the only thing I've ever really wanted to be, I had to deal with this from a certain place of truth. And unfortunately, in our industry, we see a lot of what I call both sidesism. Like we're trying to both sides things that don't make any sense. Like there's no both sides to racism. Like there's no both sides to injustice. And what you see a lot of times is when we talk about issues like police brutality, inequity, inequality, those turn into debates. There's really nothing to debate.
Right, exactly. I agree.
Yeah. And so I thought the best use that I could do is be a megaphone. And I know that sometimes there's a lot of reluctance or a lot of, consternation over the fact that you have celebrities or people with a high profile who get involved in certain issues. I am as informed as I can be on the things that I care about. And I try to be very diligent about that because you have to be careful with how you lend your voice because you are influencing people. On the other side of it, I also am very respectful of the fact that there have been some grassroots organizers, people who have been in this struggle for a while. Black Lives Matter, saying that phrase wasn't always popular. All right. It was a cuss word like 5 years ago. All right. And so this is a relatively new phenomenon that the fact that you have corporations and other people leaning into this now. But I know a lot of those activists and they've been on the ground since day one. So I think it's important that if you do have a high profile, if you are a celebrity, Boost was already there because they have been doing the work. So I try to make sure that I do that as well because I don't know everything. I'm not on the front lines. And when people call me an activist, I am quick to correct them because I'm not out there getting arrested. I'm not out there putting myself in front of the police. All I'm doing is being the megaphone. Reserve that level of respect and attention for the people actually on the front lines.
So this leads me to two questions because you hit on 2 points in there that I just want to get clarity on. So for someone who's in entertainment, who is, in the public eye, like in 2017, you tweeted that Donald Trump was a racist. And at the time you worked for ESPN, right? So the first question is, were you concerned about the aftermath of what that would look like? Where for you, it's like, well, I got to be the voice of truth, right? So that's the first question. And then the second question is, for me, because I always battle with this, like, how do I use my voice in the way that I can? Because it's just certain people you don't want to hear stuff from. Like, you know what I mean? Like in truth, like we want to be able to be all things, but really we can't be all things. And so it's like, sometimes when I look out and I see Cardi B interviewing with Bernie, it was like, well, he didn't want to sit down with Angela Rye. He didn't want to sit down with Jemele. He didn't want to sit down with Tamika Mallory. Like, because certain people you just don't want to hear, that they're not the people that should be the advocate for that. So what would you suggest to someone like me who's not a political person, being able to utilize my voice in the best way, not just because I have one?
All right, I'll deal with the first part of the question first about Donald Trump and when I tweeted that he was a white supremacist in 2017 while working at ESPN. I had no idea that was going to create the furor that it did. Honestly, had I known it would have, I might have thought twice about hitting send, but I thought at that point we had agreed that this was the case, right? Like I thought you were able to call a thing, and that's like kind of a core principle of journalism is that you have to be able to say what it is. Otherwise, what are we doing? And based off words, deeds, actions, this man had exposed himself as a white supremacist and a white nationalist. And I was really surprised that it rose to the level of the White House calling for me to be fired. I think a lot of it had to do with where I was working, what I was doing, the fact that I'm a Black woman. And as you know, anytime we showcase a strong opinion, there's always a lot of backlash to that. So dealing with all of that was certainly very new to me. I certainly don't regret it and I wouldn't take it back. And even in the moment, seeing the kind of reaction that it was drawing, it was, ESPN, there were some people who asked me if I would consider apologizing. And my answer was hell no. And if it came to I would have had to lose my job over that, then so be it. And that's not to say that I wasn't respectful of the position I was in or didn't recognize how hard it was for me to get there. But it is to say that I got to be able to live with myself at the end of the day. And I wouldn't have been able to live with myself had I issued any kind of public apology to Donald Trump. Like that just wasn't going to happen. The second part of what you said about how celebrities can use their platform, I have a little different take on the Cardi B thing. One of the things that I've realized, and I've learned this from a lot of the activists that I've been able to befriend and talk to, is you have to meet people where they are. Cardi B has an enormous audience.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, huge audience. And I think there was value in her interviewing Bernie Sanders, and I believe she sat down with Joe Biden as well because of who her audience is. We have to get young people engaged in voting, in understanding the political system. Voting doesn't cure everything, that is for sure. However, for people to think that politics doesn't matter in their real life, you are absolutely fooling yourself. How much taxes you pay, what kind of housing you are able to get, all of these things are impacted by the political process, and Black people have to stop taking themselves out of the equation, thinking that our power doesn't matter. As I often say, if your power didn't matter, if your voice didn't matter, if your vote didn't matter, why are they always trying to take it from you? It clearly matters, right? And so I think somebody like you, who has a fan base, an audience, who have people who aren't always willing to engage in the conversation, you are able to get them to a point where they see their value and worth in the political process, where you get them curious about things. Maybe somebody who is a Cardi B fan would not have thought to look up what kind of policies that Bernie Sanders has or who he's about to inform. And she was able to generate a level of response from them. And I think it was valuable. We need more people being able to do that, being able to challenge politicians in ways that they are not typically challenged. To understand that when you are making these votes or when you're voting or wanting to pass certain legislation, that these are not laws that just disappear in the thin air. You have the power to change people's lives for the good or the bad. And sometimes they need to hear an unfiltered message from somebody not politically connected who has to worry about their political ties or their political future or something like that. That's why I think it's value in a Tami Roman and value in a Tamika Mallory as well. Like, it's value in both sets of people bringing different kinds of issues to the forefront. So from that standpoint, I think if politics doesn't resonate with you in a real way, then you need to make it resonate with you in a real way by being able and feeling free to ask those questions. I think when you start feeling as if they are actually doing something, it helps you feel like your vote and your voice matter on some level. And too many people, and especially too many of us, they don't feel like their voice and vote matter.
Well, you just educated me, so I'm gonna go ahead on and apologize about my thoughts about Cardi, because I said, well, why is she sitting down? But she needed to have sat down, okay? And I need to do the same the next time it comes around. Let me go ahead.
I think you should. Like, honestly, I think a lot of people, listen, it's no different than your preparation for this show that you do. When you sit down with people, you do your research, you figure out what matters, you think about the things that matter to you, and you ask them. And it's no different. If you could sit down and do an interview with Joe Biden tomorrow or Kamala Harris tomorrow and ask her a lot of the questions that many of us in our community have wondered and want to know and want to see some real change. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You pay taxes just like everybody else, okay? And probably more than most people.
Amen. Amen. We're going to take a break, Jemele, but we've got a lot more to talk about. Jemele Hill is in the building and she ain't holding her tongue about it, child. So when we return, it is Get Into It with Tami Roman, special guest Jemele Hill on Fox Soul. Back to Get Into It. I am Tami Roman and I've been chatting it up with Jemele Hill. And Jemele, before we went to break, this question popped into my mind, and so I'm going to bring it back because I want to hear your answer on this. Tim Tebow is getting to try out for the NFL while Colin Kaepernick has not been given the same opportunity. What's your take on this situation?
Well, it's disappointing. It's not disappointing that Tim Tebow is getting another opportunity. So I want to be very clear here, because I think a lot of people think that the backlash is about some kind of hatred for Tim Tebow. I've known Tim Tebow since he was in high school. When I was a sports columnist at the Orlando Sentinel, I did a huge story on Tim. I've been to church with Tim Tebow. So I know him and his family, and they're great people. And Tim's a really good guy. And he is in a unusual position of his former college coach, being now the head coach of Jacksonville. And so we know how he got the opportunity. You know, in our community, we call it the hookup. He got the hookup because it worked. Right. Exactly. But the disappointing thing from a wider and an optic scale is that here you have Colin Kaepernick, who basically was just demanding justice, demanding equality, sticking up for the rights and freedoms of Black people. And the NFL found that so distasteful that they ruined his career. And that wrong will never be made right. Never. And every time that we see, you know, a situation where a quarterback that they just plucked off the couch gets an opportunity in the NFL, Colin Kaepernick's name is going to come right back in rotation. And I think this is the unforgivable sin the NFL is always going to have to live with. And I don't begrudge Tim Tebow his opportunity, but it just further crystallizes the absolute cowardice of NFL coaches, owners, and NFL management, and why they have continued to blackball Colin Kaepernick from the NFL.
Mm-hmm. I'm just so disappointed because there are so many teams that could utilize his expertise. And I just feel like because you remember when they let him come down to his own like private camp in Atlanta, and because he wanted to use his person to throw the ball to, they thought that was him making a spectacle out of his train, you know, and I just feel like every time he goes to do something, they try to make it more than what it is. And I feel like what he's doing is standing up for justice where there is injustice. And why is that a problem?
You know, here's the thing. You know, if Colin Kaepernick, and this is how sad and unfortunate this situation is. If Colin Kaepernick would have hit a woman, he'd be back in the NFL. He'd be back. And that's because in the NFL's mind, that's considered to be a correctable behavior. Like, you can convince people that Colin Kaepernick doesn't beat women anymore. You cannot convince them that Colin Kaepernick no longer thinks that Black people deserve liberation, freedom, justice, and equality. Mm-hmm. That toothpaste is out of the tube. He's not going to take back what he believes. He's not going to stop kneeling just to make them comfortable. And because of that, he is considered to be a threat. I think a lot of NFL owners still blame him for the negative publicity that they received. They still blame him for his influence on other players. Because when you let a Colin Kaepernick in an NFL locker room, the coach is not in control of that, because he has become so much bigger than the game itself. And so for the NFL and for football is a sport of conformity. It's one team, one fight, one band, one sound. That's how they act, right? Mm-hmm. And so Colin Kaepernick is such an outlier that they fear that not only what he will do and what he will say, they fear the influence he'll have on other players. And that's why he hasn't been back in the NFL. Tim Tebow hasn't played in the NFL in 9 years. And he's about to switch positions to something he's never played. So when they're motivated, when they have power and influence, the NFL can make whatever decision they choose. And it just shows, just again, their lack of cowardice when it comes to, or their continued cowardice when it comes to Colin Kaepernick.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you feel it's something that we as a community need to be more vocal about, getting him back in? I mean, it may not even be something he wants at this point, but, you know, we speak up about everything else, you know, so it's kind of like.
Well, I mean, a lot of people did speak up when it happened. I guess, personally, I think the other players in the league let him down. I don't really blame the fans because, you know, football is a consumer sport, and I get it. A lot of people love the NFL and certainly weren't going to stop watching because of this. But I do think the other players didn't have his back when the moment called for it, because they saw this as an issue, an individual issue, when they really should have been looking at what are the broader implications. The broader implications are that they're willing to ruin somebody's career because of their fight for justice. That alone should be a huge, dangerous signal to other players in the league. If they can do it to him, they will do it to you. So why would you ever let management, let the NFL brass, let owners, coaches, whoever feel like that was acceptable? Mm-hmm. And that is the part I think that doesn't sit right with me, is their response. And you didn't even have to kneel with Colin. You didn't have to lock arms. You didn't have to even believe the same things that he believed, though I don't know why you wouldn't.
Why you wouldn't, yeah.
But if, let's say that you didn't, but what you should have definitely been able to stand on is a player's right to do what every person in this country has the right to do. And that should have been enough to galvanize everybody.
I agree. We talked about using your platform to inform the community about important issues. And last year, you got to launch a new show with your friend and fellow journalist, Carrie Champion. Now, tell us about Carrie Champion and Jemele Hill, who won't stick to sports. It's on Vice. What is that about?
Well, it was, I give Carrie all the credit in the world. I have these conversations off air, and certainly we would fool around on social media back when Periscope was a thing, and we'd have these conversations on football Sundays, and people tended to respond. And once I got away from ESPN, I had so much going on. And Carrie had always talked about the fact that, we really need to try to do something together because people seem to enjoy our chemistry, our friendship. And so she literally showed up at my house one day with a camera crew and a bottle of my favorite Pinot Noir.
That sold you.
Yeah, so she was like, we're going to tape something right now. I don't know who it's going to go to, but we did. So we sat down with some wine and started talking about all these issues in and around sports. Somebody at Vice heard about what we did. They asked to see it, and the rest, as they say, is history. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people always think that there's a certain danger zone in doing shows with people that are your good friends, but Carrie's honestly amazing, and she's great to work with. And I knew she would be. And even though Carrie and I, we don't see everything the same, but we're like-minded. And more importantly, we root for each other's success. I root just as hard for her as I do for myself. And in addition to being able to kind of freely talk about things in the way that we felt they should be talked about, we also thought it was just really important just so people can see Black women working together, cheering each other on, being each other's best advocate, being a friend. And we think that's an important component to show about how Black women, how we lead our lives, because there's so much negativity and so many people always want to talk about our friendships and how we're this or that. Black women, it's funny, we're either too much or never enough. We're one of those things. And so we wanted to just show other Black women that you could be unapologetic, you could be bold, you could be sassy, you could be all these things, and there's a place and a home for you, and you can develop friendships that lasts a lifetime, and promoting other women never comes at the expense of yourself.
I absolutely agree. That was a gem that I will now make sure they edit out for me so that I can post that on my page, because I loved that. But on your show, you guys talk about, it's not just sports. You talk about everything from sports to pop culture to politics to like the gamut of everything. Is this the creative outlet and freedom that you have always been wanting and wish you had over on the other platforms?
Yeah, I think both of us, while we were always ourselves when we were at ESPN, there's going to be limits. I mean, this is corporate media. I mean, we knew what we signed up for when we went to ESPN, but the world has changed a lot. And now I think people want those conversations in and around and beyond sports. And we also had more to say and more things that we were passionate about and interested in. And this was an example of us kind of being able to show our full range. Especially for Carrie, because she spent a lot more time hosting television shows than I did. Like, I was always on the opinion side of things. And now people are seeing just how much range and depth that she brings to a lot of conversations. So for us, this was a creative outlet. And it was about, especially now at this stage in our career, like Carrie and I are both entrepreneurs. We own our own businesses. We're running our own companies. And I'm sure this is important to you as well, that it's not about money at this point for me. It's about making cool things with my friends and with like-minded people. Yeah. I don't want to ever put myself in a position again where I'm working with people or for people I can't stand. I'm not doing that anymore. Exactly. It's too much mental stress, and I can't creatively get into who I need to be if I'm worried about, drama and politics and all that other stuff that sometimes comes with some of the, associations that you have, especially in media and that kind of thing. So that's all it's about for me. I just want to work people I mess with. That's all. I work with people I mess with. That's it. So I think for that, this stage in my career has been really both challenging and exhilarating.
Yeah, yeah. I listen, it's been such a blessing to just see the arc, as we say when we're talking to actors, the arc of Jemele Hill, because you've always been the same, but the outlets and the presentation and the platforms, we really are getting to see you and getting to know you and absorb your energy from all different levels and angles. And that's a blessing, because when I look out the inspiration of Black women just being bosses in so many areas, you know what I mean? And when I look out and see y'all doing it, it inspires me. So, thank you. And I'm thankful for what you're doing, really and truly. Now, you also speak out a lot on your Spotify podcast. Jemele Hill is Unbothered. Let's take a look at that.
I felt so strongly and really quite emotionally. And this is what I said: if I don't get in this race, there is a voice that will not be present on that stage, and a voice that needs to be heard.
Now, everybody can't make it in the podcast world, okay? You have managed to be successful at it, and only a few can really do it. What does that feel like, to have so many creative outlets and they're all winning?
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're in sync with each other. Is that, Jemele Hill is Unbothered is me kind of getting back to my roots as a journalist, being able to sit down with people, interview them, have conversations, give people information about people that they didn't know, bring a sense of truth and realism to, people's lives, and to speak that truth. But there's, all the other platforms, my writing for The Atlantic, it's pretty much the same thing. So the only thing that's different is the method. That's the podcast. I also, write, I commentate as well, but they all kind of are very related to one another. And I think people now appreciate authenticity and genuineness. And they know I'm bringing those things all the time. As you mentioned, like, I'm pretty much the same person. The only difference is that you all are seeing a wider spectrum of the other things that I care about and am passionate about and am creative about. And so that's really it. I mean, because to me, storytelling is storytelling. Even with the production company that I have with my best friend, Kelly Carter, is that we wanted to tell stories, and we wanted to delve into the nuance of who Black women are, and to show that, yes, we can be bosses, as you said, we can be leaders and all these other things, but we also can be vulnerable. We also need spaces to do that, and be able to cry or to feel things that we don't have to bury all the time for the sake of somebody else's comfort. So exactly, me doubling down on that has really, I think, added and blossomed to my career. So I just see everything as an extension of each other. And so when I sit down for Jemele Hill is Unbothered, you're getting the same me that you get when I'm on MSNBC.
Yeah. Okay, so before I let you go, we do something around here called Tammy's Fast Five. You do not get to escape it. We're going to 5 questions that are out of the box, and you just say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Ready? Okay. How did you hear that Donald Trump was mad about your tweet years ago?
By text. One of my friends, Stuart Moore, who's an anchor in Orlando, texted me. He was the first person to let me know the president tweeted about me.
Oh my goodness. What's your favorite NBA team? And do you think they'll go to the finals?
My favorite NBA team is my hometown team, the Detroit Pistons. Not anytime soon.
Now let's see how real Jemele gonna be on this one. Name one Black woman you are particularly proud of.
Oh, my mother, by far. My mother's she's the strongest person that I know. What she's been through would have killed most people. So I'm very thankful that, God put both of us in each other's lives.
Yes. What's the next type of show you'd like to do?
I think I'd like to do a docuseries. I like being in the field. I want to get out and talk to people and kind of delve into more deeply some of these issues that we are experiencing in our country right now. I want to find the common ground.
Would you ever do reality TV?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Sports journalists.
I don't know if I could do it in the way you did it necessarily.
See, then I get to,
I think it depends. I mean, is this something that I feel like is going to represent? It's not just me I have to think about, but my husband too. Is this going to represent us? In a way that is truthful. I'm not worried about looking good or bad. I'm just worried about looking truthful, okay, and authentic. Yeah.
Favorite person to interview and why?
Ooh, my favorite person to interview. That is really tough. I just did an interview with one of my favorite artists ever, Jill Scott, and that was a lot of fun because I don't know if she's my favorite person ever, but she's definitely up there, and she's just tremendous, great soul, and to talk about sex with Jill Scott is pretty funny. It's pretty interesting.
Because she's uninhibited. She would just come on out and she's very fearless. So, I want to have a conversation. Some things I need to ask you.
Although, if I may add to that, in your in the Fast Five here, Mary J. Blige, Serena Williams, and Michelle Obama, 3 people I'd love to interview.
Yeah,
I put that out in every interview. Mary J. Blige, Serena Williams, Michelle.
Around here is all things MJB. Anybody that knows me knows that. Thank you, Jemele, for joining me today. Soulmates, did I lie? Did I lie? Candy voice. I told you this was going to be lit. Now, we'll be looking for you in the Atlantic magazine, listening to your podcast and checking you out on Vice. But let the people know where they can find you in the meantime.
Yeah, I have a very difficult social media name, Jemele Hill.
Just look her up. She's present and available. Stick around. You've got questions and I've got answers. You know what's up next. It's Ask Tami on FOXSOUL. Welcome back to Get Into It. I'm Tami Roman and it is time for Ask Tami. As usual, I'm answering your short video questions about a relationship issue. Let's check out our latest video.
Hi, so my dilemma is I met someone on a dating app about a year ago. We exchanged phone numbers. We've been like vibing on the phone. The person is really cool. I like this person. In the beginning, I asked them how tall they were. They told me that they were 5'10". I'm 5'11 and a half. I prefer someone that is taller than me, but I was like, it's 1.5 inches. I'll be okay. When we meet in person, the person is about 5'6". Yeah, so any romantic feelings went out the window. So I need to know, how do I tell this person that I am not interested? And I don't want to hurt their feelings because they're so cool, but I can't do it. Not with 5'6". No, I like to wear heels and I'm like at least 6'5". So I need help.
Now, see, this goes back to what I was talking about with the packaging. This may be a really great guy that you're about to pass up on because he's not 6'2". Sometimes you have to compromise. What is this person really working with? Clearly it's not height, so there's got to be some other great things that they have to offer if your only qualm is the height. So from that standpoint, I think you should still give him a chance. I mean, when y'all lay down, you're going to be the same size in the bed. And we don't know what, eventually, if you get to know him, we're not going to act like people don't get into the sexual aspect of it all. You don't know what he's working with down there. It could be every bit of 6'5" down there. So I'm saying, baby girl, don't limit yourself because he's short. Get to know the person. And then if you don't like the person, then it's like, and you short, you can let him get on down the highway. But he may be everything that you need him to be. So don't stifle or sabotage a relationship that could be a positive one. And even if it's not a relationship, a friendship, those are good too. You want some advice on your relationship, your family drama, or a personal issue? Y'all know 1 to 2 minutes is all you need, and email it to asktammy@foxsoul.tv, or you can post it on Instagram with the hashtag Ask Tami. People will see it and get it over to me, and I'll give you the best answer I can. Right now, we're going to be back This is Get Into It with Tami Roman on FOXSOUL.
Hey, I'm out running errands, child. Woo. Listen, do me a favor right now. I want you to take a second, step to the side, close your eyes, and recall a time in your life where you felt like it was the end. Like, child, I don't know how I'm going to make it through. Like, really process it and think about that moment where you were like, oh, Lord, what is going on? This has to be the worst time of my life. Once you got it, I want you to open your eyes and lift them up and say, thank you, God. Because the fact that you were able to think on a time that you thought was the end and realize that you recovered, you are still here. Your faith game is strong.
That's that power minute for the week. Hopefully it'll help you get through the day. Thanks for rocking with me today, soulmates, and a special thank you to Jemele Hill for stopping by tonight. I'll be back and we'll get into it with our special guest, Lynn Whitfield, as she joins our conversation on the power of sisterhood. So come on back to watch that conversation. Have a great evening. I'll see you shortly. Stay tuned for the Book of Sean, because that's coming up next.